No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Play the original music. Hello, you are listening to Ultra Q, episode 96. We're fucking back in every sense of the word. My name is Red. I'm joined by Mel.
This is the second time that Gen has been subjected to white fluid by Dan.
There is a use of the word glazed in my summary. Also joined by Brad.
The vibrations. I deleted everyone's Audacity files.
Oh no! You have to be tried for homicide.
True.
This week, 3 more episodes of Ultraman Leo, and after a kind of, we had a 2-week sort of like, hang on. We were told this. We were informed that maybe this one was going to be our shit. Is this maybe not our shit? We're back.
Yeah.
We are so back.
I'm very pleased to announce.
It is so over on one front, but we'll get to it.
Yes, it is. Dear listener, the OP is gone.
Yeah.
I was distraught.
Yeah.
But do not worry. I don't think I've subjected you to the new opening.
Yeah. Do you want to know what Subjective told me when he gave me the first OP?
Yeah.
He refuses to give us the file for the second one.
Ooh.
Well, he should be happy to know that on Blue Sky, when I got to the new OP and I was like, I'm in mourning, I did make an announcement that the listeners will be safe with my tyranny, and I will not be subjecting them to the new opening. I should
also highlight that in the anniversary album where Signature sends us the fancy new versions for that we use for the final episodes, only one of the Leo OPs gets our remix version, and can you guess which one it is that people actually like?
Is it the good one? Is it the one that people like?
Yes.
I'm glad we're not alone. I'm glad we're not alone in this.
It is a shame to have to skip the OP in every episode now, though.
Yeah.
I guess that means less time watching an episode, though.
I'm gonna be honest, this might be a hot take. I do this for anime too. I'm usually only watching the OP for a thing once or twice and then skipping ahead every time after. Unless it's an OP I really, really like.
Ooh.
For me, it's usually I'm watching, but also if it's
this has been an AMQ debuff.
For me, if it's
yeah.
If I'm if I'm trying to catch up on GGP, for instance, maybe I'll skip, or I'll watch one at the start of the session, but then leave it. But some OPs you just can't skip, like the Chobits OP.
I have to actively dislike an opening to skip it. I'm not even skipping this one because I just look at my phone. Anyway, so yes, we got 3 pretty good episodes of Ultraman Leo to talk about in a little bit. But before we get to any of that, we got our usual shit. I've forgotten everything I did this week.
I can I talk about going fast?
You went fast?
Oh yeah, we went fast because I had to run away really fast from Blindside Sonny because he's coming to kill you. The new Coheed and Cambria album is out.
I see.
Yeah. You thought I was going to talk about F1. Haha.
I did. I was like, oh yeah, Brad got into the new F1 season started. Brad's hopped on F1.
I will talk about that, but first I need to talk. So here's the thing: this album was a shadow drop for me because I have not been paying attention. The last album they did, Vaxis Act 2, The Window of the Waking Mind. I was listening to all the singles as they came out. Wasn't feeling a lot of them, but then the whole album, I was like, oh, the entire album is actually really good. I just don't like a lot of the a couple of the core songs they released prior. I was like, yeah, I wasn't feeling, but whole thing very good. This one I didn't pay attention or hear any of them, I think. So this is, and let me make sure I get the title right. This is how not expecting this is. I don't even remember the name off. Yeah, okay, so it's Vaxis Act 3, The Father of Make-Believe. Is the 11th studio album by Coheed and Cambria, which, if you're not familiar, Coheed and Cambria is a prog rock band that, I guess, loosest definition, I feel like they've kind of branched out to, covering multiple genres at this point. They've gotten a little bit more experimental with their sound the last few years or so. But the reason that a lot of people know and love them is because
they have lore.
They have lore. Every album except for one where they kind of were like, yeah, we don't want to do it anymore, is a concept album where the concept revolves around this broader saga called the Amory Wars, which really started out as this 5-part epic that was very, very the main character was an OC, self-insert of the leading man of the band, and it was a thing where it's his family dies and then his girlfriend dies and he has to end the universe because destroying everything is better than being enslaved, man, that sort of shit.
I see.
This got followed up with a prequel called The Afterman Duology, which is personally my favorite, I'd say my favorite era of Coheed. Early 2010s. And that is interesting because story-wise, it's kind of setting up there's a weird mysterious life stream that goes throughout the planets of this world, and it's actually the afterlife, but it's also about damn, I'm a famous guy now. What if I'm not there when my wife is in trouble and I'm not home because I'm out on tour? So it's a little eye rolly that way, but it does just, I think, is the most inventive in terms of what they sound like. I like those albums a lot. Then for an album, they dropped the concept. Nobody liked it. They took a little bit of time off and they came back and they're like, hey, we're gonna wrap this concept up with a 5-part album series. With a new cast of characters taking place after the first arc that they started with, called Vaxis, which is about a young boy named Vaxis, who also kind of has some Dr. Manhattan shit going on. Vaxis has been interesting because I would say within the broader Coheed fandom, it might be a little controversial because it feels like they are branching out, but also some of the directions they're branching out maybe sound more poppy and arena rock, a little more standard than what they were doing previously. Personally, I think it sounds really fucking good. Quality-wise, I think this is the best stuff they've ever put out, but also it's not as raw as some of the older stuff in that way. But I also think maybe dialing it back and kind of going for a little bit more mainstream of a sound was not the worst. These sound more polished in a way that I think the actual production quality of the album is the best they've ever been in a way that I think is good. And sometimes shit just didn't sound mixed great in some of their older songs. The concept stuff has been interesting for Vaxis because a lot of old Coheed stuff, I have a soft spot for it. It's also very misogynist and very in your own feelings, like, young man trying to navigate life, and, like, there's some shit there that's kind of gross. Vaxis 1 is an album that basically is centered around the idea of a guy going, hey, I wasn't the best boyfriend, I'm trying to be better, let's make this thing work, let's give it a second shot. And it's actually pretty wholesome. The second one takes an even greater leap, and might as well be called, If You Make Fun of My Neurodivergent Son, I'm Gonna Fucking Kill You, the album. And then this one was described, because I've been looking at interviews just because I'm like, what's the deal here? Because listening through, I was just like, this doesn't even really sound, like, outside of like a few occasions, the concept feels like it's kind of in the background now. And sure enough, I listened to a few interviews with Claudio Sanchez, the front man, and he's the guy who's behind the whole story aspect of it, along with his wife. And he basically, he sounds frustrated a little bit as he gets older. Like, hey, sometimes the story overshadows the actual music I'm making, and it's about the music for me, and it seems like he's trying to maybe distance himself from the concept part of it again a little bit, while also still acknowledging people like it, and he still wants to do interesting stuff with it. But he had an interview quote that was interesting to me, where he said, the concept started because I was put into a position where I had to be the leading man of a band, and I didn't exactly want to ever be that guy. I was content with being in the background, but suddenly I have to write music and I have to talk about life. And for a young man who doesn't want to do that, maybe it's a little bit easier to make a sci-fi story, and explore stuff going on in your life that way, rather than just writing songs about what's going on in your life. Which I thought was interesting to hear, like, a guy pushing, like, 50, I think, kind of reflect on what got him big like that, and being like, I just kind of wish I was myself more. But then also, too, like, this album is a little bit about that. Like, it's a little bit about, like, hey, I have some regrets with how my music career has gone, and I think that maybe if we did a few different directions or approaches from a different angle, we could have been bigger than what we were. But then while also celebrating the good times you had and what you do have. And what's really interesting to me is that at the end of the last album, there's a little bit of a plot twist where Cyrus Amory, the protagonist of the Afterman albums, pops out from the live stream. That story kind of ends with him subjecting himself to, like, an eternity of searching for his wife in the afterlife so that he can be with her again. But then he pops out as an old man at the end of the last Vaxis album. And also, the titular Vaxis has been born, and he is a young man with some weird, like, Dr. Manhattan shit going on. And the album's, like, concept seems to be about them having a discussion about the nature of life and regret and loss and, you know, enjoying the time that you have with people before they're gone. And it's really interesting. I am so here for this guy's, like, weird existential midlife, like, fuck, did I really do everything I wanted to do era? It's been really good. I think it's genuinely this might be a top 3 Coheed album for me. I need to sit on it, but it's up there for me. And maybe top 5 the more I sit on it. But it's really good. This is my favorite Vaxis album by far. They've only been getting better. The first one has some misses. Second one was really good. This one is even better. It helps that it is essentially a sequel to my favorite era of Coheed. There are so many callbacks to songs that I love. And they're all, like, for as deep about regret as this album is, every time they do a callback to the old music, it's like a joyous take on that material that's like, hey, remember those good times we had? Even though shit was a little rough, like, no, everything's gonna be alright. We're older now, we're wise, we're more experienced, it's great. And I just felt good. I had an experience where the Blood Moon was this weekend. The astronomical event where the moon looks red. It simultaneously happened with this album dropping and me going, oh shit, I didn't even know this was coming out. And I found out the Blood Moon was happening at the same time. So I now get to reach the funniest bit that this podcast may have never expected, where the ideal time to listen to the Continuum 3 tethered together is while standing outside your porch at 2 a.m. gazing upon the blood moon. Magical experience I will never forget.
Nice.
Damn.
So yeah, very, very high up on Vaxis Act 3. If you like Afterman Ascension and Afterman Descension, you gotta listen to this. You will have a wonderful time. And yeah, the other thing is, I talked about it previously. I fucking got into F1.
I have not been into F1 for about 8 years.
I should have been F1.
I really liked F1 when I was watching it.
Is there a reason you dropped off?
Was your... just it's a lot of my weekend.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I'm already feeling that.
Those races are long.
I had to multiple times this weekend go, guys, I gotta go watch racing, and they're like, okay, bye. And then I came back and like half the people were gone because it's fucking Australia. So I'm like coming back at 1 a.m.
They do the placement on Saturday, and then they do the race on the Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Bi-weekly, but I think also there've been the next week is just next weekend. The next race is just next weekend. I think they've been pushing for more and more races, it sounds like, was the impression I got.
Okay.
Because from what I gathered, it used to be, oh yeah, we give like a week break and then, the next one. But now it seems like sometimes they squeeze in 3 in a row, which is wild to me. That sounds exhausting, just as a person who has to be involved with this.
It's all over the world. They gotta go there.
Yeah. No, like, I was thinking about that too. It's like, jet lag has to be a motherfucker for this,
Yeah.
I wonder how early they get
Lewis
there.
Hamilton is 40 years old. Let him rest.
But yeah, F1 is it always 20 cars, by the way? I wasn't sure about that.
Why does that strike you as a lot of cars or not many?
I was just curious if it's always consistent year over year, that it's always exactly 20.
I think so, and I think it's like I think so. I don't know.
So there's
hang on, yeah, maybe
10 teams of 2 gather together on a racetrack. First, they do a qualifying race to determine starting position for the actual race, which is like 60 minutes long. Then they have a full-on 90-minute race, and you're rooting for the driver that you like, obviously, to win. But then also the team's funding is decided on like both drivers for the team combined, how many points they get, and like obviously the better you do in the race, the higher amount of points you get, and that will determine like funding for the next year and shit like that. A lot of the specifics I'm still not entirely sure on. I'm very new to this world, despite working in automotive for a long time. Let me tell you, my coworkers are fucking feasting for my F1 opinions and who I'm rooting for. There are bets going on for who my guy is and what teams I will like, which I find very funny. That I'm also like people are betting about things behind my back because they don't want to influence me. It's great.
I'm quite happy to influence you, but I don't know much these days. That's the thing. So you're kind of safe from my influence. Other than, has anyone offered you their opinion on Max Verstappen yet?
I've heard people's opinions on him. But,
okay.
Nobody has told me what to think about him yet.
I see.
So far...
I see.
And I understand that this may be different from... I'm under the impression he has maybe matured in recent years, and in years past, he was a little more, outspoken.
When he... The impression I get of him is that when someone actually challenges him and he has to actually race someone, he tends to just run them off the road. He's kind of used to just being the fastest guy out there, and I think I think maybe the only times I ever hear anything about F1 these days is when Max Verstappen has got away with something.
I see. Well, he didn't have the opportunity because Lando Norris had a good lead on him that entire fucking thing. So
okay.
Which, speaking of, I am leaning the McLaren side of things.
I see.
The person that just I've immersed myself by looking at the interviews and the stuff. I guess I should say, F1 has taken off in popularity the last few years, in part because, from what I gathered, they are under new management. Like, the entire F1 thing is underneath new management as of a few years back, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't exactly know when that happened, but the thing I do know is that the new owners immediately recognized they have a problem in that young people don't fucking like F1. And they immediately had the galaxy brain idea to solve this, which is just say whatever the fuck you want on social media, and also we're gonna do a bunch of online, like, content creation type shit. And also we're gonna, like, make a Netflix docudrama series show that, like, gives you a peek into the drama that goes on behind the scenes, and apparently really fucking took off with women, is the thing I've heard consistently about that Netflix show. And also, the social media thing did seem to have an impact. Some of these guys are just on Twitch streaming shit, apparently. I haven't watched any of it. But
oh my god, Twitch streamer F1 that's crazy.
Apparently during lockdown, a lot of them were just, like, streaming the sim shit and then talking shit about each other just on Twitch live streaming.
Oh, you know what? That does sound like a recipe for getting people into F1. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, this sounds cool. Because also, too, I should say, I work in automotive. I am also a guy that just, like, my thing is, like, I do social media stuff for, like, marketing firms and shit to get people to actually give a shit about stuff in their local community. So, like, this just appeals to my brain of, like, okay, like, it's getting that part of my brain that likes the work I do to be like, how do you get people to care about something that offhand they probably wouldn't care about? And it's like, show the actual human part of it that, like, actually matters, right? I'm always a big fan of that. So yeah, the guy I have taken a look at and have liked the most from the interviews and stuff I've seen is Oscar Piastri, I believe is how you say his name.
Okay.
He is from Australia. He's racing for McLaren. And he's just, like, deadpan in a very funny way. Like, his range of emotion seems to be light smile and slightly less smiling, in a way that's kind of unsettling, but also very endearing and funny. Very humble seeming guy. And I think he's only a few years in. I could be wrong about all of this, but I think he's only a few years in, but I'm like, I like this guy. So we cut to the Australian Grand Prix, the first race in this. I don't know if the order, like, is the order of where they go always the same too? Okay.
It's been so long.
Okay. They started in Australia this time around. And he and his partner were killing it the entire fucking race. Lando Norris, the more experienced McLaren driver, was in first basically the entire time. And also he was in pole position, which means he got the best position from the qualifying race.
Well, that's a Namco game named that.
True. Mel, I'm not gonna lie, I kept doing the Leo pointing at the screen thing every time they fucking said pole position. I was like, I'm such a nerd. But I did think about the Namco game a lot. So he was in first, which is, from what I gathered, pretty expected. Like, he and Verstappen, I think, are kind of like a big rivalry right now, it seems. But then Piastri was in second. And then, as I learned from the Rob Zachney, Drew Scanlon, and Danny O'Dwyer podcast, Shift F1, which I highly recommend if you're interested in getting to F1, because they're very good at being accessible and catching newcomers up. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they all have an old F1 podcast that, well, I guess Rob was a later addition, but I think it started as a Giant Bomb thing, actually, but is now its own thing. I'm not entirely sure, but they have a preseason primer, which was actually one of the pushes I need to be like, okay, yeah, I do want to get into this, because it's just a 2-hour podcast where they go, hey, here's a broad overview of what F1 is and how it works. Here are all of the teams and their recent history right now and why people care about them. And here are the drivers for their teams and kind of their current story or where they're at. Very helpful. I feel like I had all the context I need for the kind of the overall storyline that's going on here right now in terms of the competition, how everyone is feeling about each other. But one thing they pointed out in the podcast is that a big factor in F1 races is the fucking rain, because
yes,
that shit can just ruin everyone's day.
I remember there was a guy, he is not gonna be around anymore. He was like British, he was on like Williams. Williams still a team?
Yes.
Okay. His last name was Button, and his whole deal was that he was just a little bit better than everyone else at racing in the rain. And so when the rain happened, it's like, oh, okay, maybe Button's gonna win this. It's like the rain is so, because you got the fucking, because the completely flat tires are what you want to be racing on, but the moment it's raining, you're like, well, you got to get the ones that grip.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta get the ones that fucking that do not like aquaplaning all over the fucking place.
Yeah. Which is interesting because also too, I think Verstappen kind of has taken that, because I did watch a little bit of the preseason.
Damn you, Verstappen.
I watched a little bit of the pre-race like interviews and stuff that they do, and the interviewer was like, "Oh, it looks like we're gonna get some rain," which I bet you're feeling pretty great about that. And he was like, "Yeah, I am."
I see,
but still didn't win. But and also, too, interesting thing is you get to hear the radio chatter between, like, the pit crew team and the drivers, which adds a lot, because it kept raining. Like, it started, the race started with rain, and then if I'm remembering correctly, it started with rain, then, like, it was dry for a bit, but then over the radio, it was like, okay, it's about to rain. Like, the rain is coming back again. And the McLaren team was like, go one more lap. With the hard tires, I believe is their name, and you could hear the drivers being like, and sure enough,
this is the element of F1 that I think is like appeals to the sicko brain. Is like the driver is like maybe like a third of what's happening.
Yes.
And like the rest of it is like the car and the strategy.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, hearing them talk about the cars, because it's just like, oh, like this is a beast of a machine, and like you could just see it on the track, like holy fuck, this thing is performing top shape. Whereas like the other teams that are maybe a little less celebrated, it's like, okay, yeah, I could see why they're maybe trailing behind a little bit and they got some issues. I felt really bad. So like I guess they do like a parade lap around the circuit or whatever before the actual race starts, right? There was a rookie driver, I think for Racing Bulls, the second Red Bull team. I actually don't remember.
Did he crash?
There was like an issue with his car, and like he spun out and crashed, and yeah, he was.
Oh no!
And like it was his first race ever.
Oh dear. Hey, listen, it's real life pod racing.
I was gonna say this as my funny final conclusion, but yeah.
You got sniped.
It used to be. Now, obviously, I was not alive for when it used to be real life pod racing, but people used to die all the fucking time in F1.
Yeah, well,
F1 used to be fucking crazy.
I just learned like this morning reading shit, like, so they have this like bar and like part, like it's like not a real roll cage, but it's like, I think it's called like a halo, but it's like a little pole and like a little like semi-circle bar thing that goes around the front of like the cockpit, and I believe that was only introduced recently because someone, I think, like died in 2014 or so, I'm just like, damn, that seems real late into the game. But yeah, it's wild. But yeah, he crashed. He was just like sobbing, but like then people like I think like even old like there was an old driver in the stands that came down to like talk with him and console him. I was like, that's kind of wholesome, but like I felt bad for that guy. It's just like, oh, you're because also too, cannot be understated. My current impression of F1 drivers, they are all nepo babies that have been like Gundam Seed programmed since birth to do F1 shit.
Jesus,
it's
that seems right. Yeah,
like this is their life. It's wild to me. Yeah, but
I mean, who else has the time?
I guess. Yeah. No, it makes sense.
No one else has the time or the support to get that good at driving.
Yeah, no.
There are like some people that come into it like from like go-karting kind of maybe.
I was about to say, isn't there like a kind of a track where it's like karting, then F3, then F2, then F1? Like you kind of work your way up.
That sounds right. That sounds
and then
right.
The real sickos could get upgrade to F0.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, well, I guess I've been all over the place, but the moment I feel like I really got F1 was when the McLaren crew was like, hey, go one more lap. The drivers were both kind of like, eh. And then the rain hits. Everyone else who was behind is playing more cautious, and basically everyone else switched tires already, except for the McLaren people in the first top two spots. Norris, being, I believe, the more skilled driver, more experienced driver, hits the rain shower and almost hits the wall, but manages to seize back control of the vehicle, and next opportunity he has, he stops in for the new tires. However, Oscar Piastri just goes right off the track and goes from second place to second to last, essentially. And you could just tell that sucks, because it's not really his fault in a way, he was told I just deal with it for now, we want to get as much leverage out of this as we can. The crew, their support mistimed the rain. But then there's the joy of going, oh, but he's catching back up, and he's going from 14th all the way climbing to 9th. So, and I should say, only the top 10 drivers of the 20 get points that matter for the overall.
Yes, so it is a league. It is this is there is no cup situation. This is it's points all the way.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was fascinating watching that mix of strategy and skill, where it's the more skilled guy just dealt with it, but then the newer guy, who I'm rooting for, is okay, I like this guy, just gets completely fucked over, put in a terrible position, and then he needs to do what he can to still contribute. And because, and I believe it is worth noting, I guess I didn't really do the math, but I believe the reason that they're in first right now, aside from the fact that Norris got first, is also partially because he did do his part too and catch up and get those couple points as well, in addition, to help out. So yeah, I'm all in on F1. I like it a lot so far. It nice. Seems really fucking cool. This might be my new personality for a bit, unfortunately for everyone around me. But
so you know how I mentioned it used to be real pod racing?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a Wikipedia called List of Formula One fatalities. I'm just gonna tell you the year. I'm just gonna go down this list and tell you the year it happened.
Okay.
1952, 1953, 1953, 1954, 1955, 1955, 1955, 1957, 57, 58, 58, 58, 58.
Jesus Christ.
So that was 4 in 1 year.
Jesus Christ.
59, 59, 60, 60, 60, 61, 61, 61, 62, 62, 64, 66, It's a safe couple of years there.
One of our listeners is going to be activated.
60. Those numbers, Mason. 67, 67, 68, 69. Nice. 70, 70, 70, 71, 73, 73, 74, 74, 75, 77, 77, 78, 80, 82, 82, 86, 94, 94, 2000, 2002, 2014.
Holy shit. Okay.
I'm not a big fan of the government.
I'm not a big And then a second one in 2014.
Oh my god.
And then 2017 was the last one.
Oh, wow. I thought 2014 was the last one.
So yeah, this is a very dangerous sport. It used to be way more dangerous than it is. It's like somewhere around 2000 something happened that meant this sport got a lot safer.
Yeah, well, you know what's wild to me is that because that rain hit right at the start of the race, so that one rookie was out on the parade lap before the fucking thing even started. So we're already down one person. It starts, and it immediately becomes apparent that there are problems with some of their cars, because, like, 3 more people just hit the wall, or, like, their cars get fucked, and they have to, they're out of the race as well. And by the end of it, I think it was 6 out of the 20 were not in the race anymore. It was fascinating to watch as my first F1 race.
Yeah. It's, people crash. People crash. They generally don't die these days when they crash, but they still crash.
Yeah.
I do. Maybe I should watch it. Maybe I should watch F1.
I do have to say, I did decide to do the. Well, okay. One thing I should say that's funny is I did not realize that the abnormal mapping server that we all hang out in had a big F1 crew that just like.
Oh yeah.
Like, I was like, oh. They're just streaming it in here. Okay, I'll hop in.
Yeah.
But for the race, I was like, I am curious about like the actual streaming, like official service thing, because it's like I think it's like a little over 100 for the year. And there's like a 7-day free trial, and I was like, why don't I just fucking try the free trial? And if I don't like it, I don't need to get it, right? That's a fucking cool. So it's cool. It's the only streaming service and I'm sure this is probably a thing for other streaming services that do sports shit, I'd have to imagine. But you get the F1 streaming service broadcast and commentary, the international stream with broadcast and commentary, which is completely separate, like same race but different coverage. You get the overview video game ass like map abstract, here's where everyone is on the track with like the little like name above them. You get like a data spreadsheet of everyone's performance and lap times and current speed and shit. And then a long list of all 20 drivers and a live stream footage of their cockpit view that you can just look at any fucking time. It's so cool. Yeah. F1's neat. It like rubs the weird like mechanical side of my brain that I don't really have. Like I'm not like a big technical like getting in the weeds of like shit guy like that. I don't think like I don't care about like working on cars, right? But like I do like a good piece of hardware broadly. And that scratches just enough of my brain, I think, to be like, okay, I understand the appeal here. So.
Mm-hmm. Back when I watched F1, it was just... we just had it on BBC. I don't... I think the ones that they could show live, they did. And the ones that were like, well, this is fucking late night television. What the fuck?
Yeah, I'm still debating because they're in Shanghai, I believe, next weekend. And
what time is it going to be for you when that race starts?
2 a.m.
That's not a short race.
And guess what? That's the fucking morning we record the podcast.
That is. You just not go to bed.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Don't do that. Listener, don't do. You only have so many of those left in your life. I think I did my last all-nighter like a year ago.
Oh, that's
it was
adorable.
like,
I've said this so many times in my life, Fred.
It was like I got through to morning, and I went about my day, and I like felt colder. I felt like a deep cold in my bones in a way that I had never felt before, and I was like, this is awful.
The answer is that the cold is always there. It's just that our experience in the waking world shields it from us.
Okay. I see. Have you been up to anything other than F1?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Mel, what you been up to? I don't have anything.
Okay. I don't have too much, thankfully.
Go for it.
Just some minor stuff first. I watched this wonderful Precure movie yesterday.
I started to watch that last night, and then I realized it was too late, and I went to sleep instead, and then I didn't watch it this morning.
Yeah.
Is this too far?
I realized I underwent a slightly tactical decision, because I was like, well, if I don't watch it, then I won't talk about it, and it's going to be a long recording session anyway.
Yeah. I mean, you can talk about it maybe when you watch it.
But how was that?
It was alright.
This is the one with the dog, right?
Yeah.
This is the one with the dog. This is the one where the girl and the girls like have their pets turn into humans. And maybe the boy's pet also turns into a human.
Yeah, like in this movie. Voiced by
stupid looking. There's a
Graham Acker.
Yeah. So basically, the deal with there's a little rabbit in. I'm gonna send you a picture of this rabbit, Brad.
Okay.
So there is a rabbit called Daifku in Wonderful Precure, who has like a stupid little. Let me send you this. Okay, here we go. That's a server. That's not this chat. There we go. No, I didn't hit copy.
That's your.
It's
wow. Bjorno.
It's Bjorno. It's Bjorno once again.
It's not delivery. It's Bjorno. Oh damn.
This little rabbit. So there's this little rabbit, cute little rabbit.
Yeah.
And there's an ongoing bit in Wonderful Precure where Komugi turns into a human, and now she can translate for other animals. And when she translates Daifku, this rabbit, he talks like a really cool guy. And like he describes his owner as a real one at one point.
I respect that.
And yeah, and when he transforms into a person, into a human being, he's got Yuichi Nakamura's as his voice actor. Who is Graham Acker, among other things, like, other cool guy. He's fucking for the Zoomers out there, he's Gojo.
Oh, Graham Acker is Gojo? What the fuck?
I know.
He voices the dog guy in Fruits Basket.
The dog guy?
Yeah.
In what?
Fruits Basket.
Oh, in Fruits Basket.
Which I need to finish the last season.
Yeah, Yuichi Nakamura is fucking. He's in Macross Frontier.
He's the
main guy. He's the main guy in Macross Frontier. He plays He's Alto.
Bruno in Part 5.
He does play Bruno in Part 5 of JoJo, which I know Brad's a big fan of. Yeah, he's around.
Yeah, I'll save further discussion then if you can actually go watch it then.
He's in the Yakuza games, as I'm looking at this name, and I think maybe he's a secret Korean.
Good to know.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, but yes, that's the ongoing bit with that rabbit. Big fan.
Yeah.
And yes, this movie.
Yeah. We can. Yeah, it was alright. It's one of the summer movies. They get stuck into a video game world. There's a bit where like Komugi's going to rescue Iroha, and she says, "Oh, one day, Iroha and I are going to grow up to see grandmas together." I'm like, that's not happening. Nope.
They're gonna be grandmas. Yeah.
Episode 44 had not happened yet.
You know who's gonna ensure that's never gonna happen? The Precure subreddit.
True. So true.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like the Maho Pre and the Hirogaro girls show up for a little bit.
Nice.
Presumably the Maho Pre girls are there because there is a sequel show airing right now. And they were promoting them.
There's a sequel. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. I've only seen one episode of it. I need to catch up on that.
Nice.
But yeah, there's a good moment where, like, Daifuku and Satoru get their magical boy forms. And they land beside Cure Wing, and then one of my friends on Blue Sky was like, I hope the next boy Cure is not orange.
Lol.
And then I joke, well, what if they just make orange the boy Cure color?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, beyond that, I finished Count Zero.
The book.
Yeah.
Okay, now, this is, I think, maybe the bit of this trilogy that I am most talking about when I refer to William Gibson getting crazy with race.
You mean how, like, following up the Rastafarian space colony with, like, the underground utopian society of Haitian voodoo guys?
Yeah.
Who,
yeah. And there's a bunch of AIs who have modeled themselves.
Who just, like, kin them, and they're just like, you know what, that's convenient.
Yeah.
I want to say, like, I enjoyed this more than Neuromancer because I feel like I followed it more, but I also think because of Gibson being Gibson, I just kind of also got lost in the details enough that when Shell by Genre was like, you know, some of this stuff's kind of a mess and comes out of nowhere, I'm like, oh, does it? I guess that's probably true. Oh well.
It's, you know, it might just, you know, it might not be your thing.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I might be coming out of this where I'm like, well, I do like some Burning Chrome stories.
Yeah,
I do think it was, like, as you pointed out, it is funny that, like, of the 3 intersecting stories, one of the protagonists does not meet the other 2 at all.
Yes, the third, it's so fun. I was, like, fully like, well, these 3 characters are going to eventually, like, their lives are going to get entangled and they're going to meet, and the art collector critic person is just like having their own thing that's kind of tangentially related.
And Bobby Newmarket is funny.
Good old Bobby.
It does just kind of, like, wrap up really neatly in a really fast way. It's like, well, okay, I guess the book's done. I guess we're packing it up.
Some of those characters return for the 3rd one.
Okay.
You know what? Lots of Sprawl characters return for the 3rd one.
That podcast hit my feed, and I went, "Oh no, I'm 2 books behind now."
Lol.
Yeah.
I felt really bad. I'm not gonna lie.
I might just do Mona Lisa Overdrive as the audiobook and not try to actually read and listen at the same time. Mm-hmm. Just make it easier for me.
Have you ever heard William Gibson reading his own writing?
No.
So something that kind of struck me is he speaks so slowly. And when I hear him read his own writing, it just takes on something. There's something else to it where it's like it is no longer this mile a minute crazy experience. It is like very, very, like, you know, sinking gradually into it. It's strange. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you have a decent time with Mona Lisa Overdrive. You know, you don't have to. It's not compulsory.
What a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a good name.
Yeah, I'm kind of also just, like, ready to be done with this season.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah.
It happens.
Do
you have anything else?
I did one thing. I finished a video game, a short one.
What was it?
I finished Burning Rangers on the Sega Saturn.
That's a game I've heard of. That's the Sonic Team game, right?
Yeah, it's like they're one of 2 games they made on the Saturn. Neither which are a Sonic game. So this one is about firefighters in the future. It has a banger opening song. And basically you're like, it's kind of like a you have, it's basically an arcade type game, and you I guess you technically have 2 characters. You can listen to that. You have 2 characters you can pick from like Show and Tillis. They're basically identical. One's the boy character, one's the girl character, and it's like a 3D platformer. You can jump, and you have a jetpack, and you have a gun which you shoot fires, because the enemy in these games are fires. And you go through these like these sci-fi corridor labyrinthian levels and put out fires and collect civilians who are like need rescuing. With the Sonic Rings system, where you have gems that are both your Sonic Rings health, but also you need a certain amount of those gems to like actually rescue people. And if you need a minimum of 5, but if you have 10, then you'll use up 10, and then but if you have 10, you'll get an extra continue because of your arcade sensibilities. But also you have like a normal shot, but you also have like a charge shot, and the charge shot destroys all crystals, and so you have to be careful about, be considered with your tactics. And there's like 4 stages. 3 of them are like arcadey levels, and the 4th one's kind of like a weird long set piece thing. There's like the vehicle section that's pretty neat. The game does feel like, because in the 90s, it is just like there is also enemies and boss fights because we feel like we need to have them because it's the 90s, and I'm like, I don't think this added to the game. On the contrary, I think it actually detracted from it. I don't think the inclusion of combat beyond actual fighting fires is especially good.
Rip.
I put like a long play in the chat too, just so you can like skim through it as well, just to see what the game looks like.
Burning Hearts. Burning Angel.
Yeah.
Burning Rangers.
Yeah, there's like, the more interesting stuff, there's like fires as enemies, because you have like basic orange fires. You have like more durable blue fires, where you're like, oh, maybe this is one where I need the charge spot for, but also that I lose all those gems that I get from because you get gems from diffusing fires as well. And there's like some green flames that do like lob flames arcing you. Not that one. And there's some interesting stuff with like the fire design, but when they start adding like, here's robots that shoot you, I'm like, this is miserable. The game also, like, because like, it's Sega Saturn, there's like no lock on or anything like that. It's like auto aim, so it can be really finicky, and like also the camera does like, it gets really funky when you're like, when your feet aren't planted on the ground, because then like it starts like when you're in the air or underwater, it starts being like swinging around wildly, which can make navigation kind of a pain. So there's like, it's a bit rough it's rough on the edges in a bunch of places. But I do think it's cool.
You say that Sonic Team had a rough transition into 3D?
I think you should. I think you're gonna have a rough transition to the bottom of my car. Yeah, it is cool. I think it's neat. I think I've heard. I'd be curious to try Phantasy Star Online 1, because I think that's the next game that Sonic Team made after this one, and that one also has shooting in it. And I'd be curious if there's a mechanical follow through there.
There's a private server thing going on. My buddy Jake is a big PSO2 guy who's been diving back into PSO1 and has been having a great time.
That sounds cool.
I played a little bit of PSO back in the day. It was fun.
Yeah, that sounds nice. It is a weird trivia, just being like, oh yeah, Sonic Team at PSO1. Yeah, I think this game has a lot of interesting ideas. I think it's cool they made like a rescue themed video game, but I also feel like there's some degree where like I think it'd be cool.
How Thunderbirds coded is it?
This is not very Thunderbirds coded.
It definitely has more of a Toku influence, but they do have a vehicle. But it only shows up like
I mean, presumably they have, you know, if you've got a team of guys, you are a little bit like a team of like how many people? How like is it Sentai-ish?
There's a team of 5, but like it's okay. The one thing
just the one person.
You're playing as one person,
and I'm assuming the vehicle shit is not really.
It's like one segment.
Yeah.
Basically, like ostensibly the other characters are in the level, and you hear like radio chatter, and like one of the core like gimmicks of the game is like you have like the boss over the intercom telling you know where to go through navigation, like turn left, turn stuff like that, and it's kind of neat. It does get pretty goofy anime by the end though, but you know, it's a neat video game and it's cool they made something like this. But I also think like it'd be cool to see like a second attempt at it, because I feel like there's like things they could do better with, like maybe with modern control setups, or you know, the more things they could do where it's like not just like a 4-stage arcade game, because I feel like you could have more diverse rescue operations or like co-op or something like that.
They never did a follow-up to this, really, right?
Nope, not at all. Standalone.
Because also, like, I feel like this is one of the, and maybe it wasn't at the time, but I feel like this is one of the games you hear about when people talk about the Saturn, at least in English-speaking circles.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, a flagship Sonic Team game. It's like trying to be really impressive with the technology, and push it to its limits. And you know, yeah, it's pretty neat. It's just, you know, I guess for various reasons Sega has not like really dug up a Saturn library in the way they have like the Genesis or the Dreamcast.
Well, was Knights also Saturn?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like the two Sonic Team games on the Saturn are Knights and Burnout Rangers.
And this looks cooler than Knights, and they ended up doing more with Knights.
Knights is nifty.
I'm not a big Knights fan.
Well, people are usually awake in the day, so that makes sense.
True.
But yeah, it's a neat game. I think it'd be cool to have more rescue themed video games. More Thunderbirds coded, I guess.
Well, there's So Human Entertainment, which, you know, did a bunch of weird ass video games back in the day, they had a firefighting game, I believe.
Oh, really?
I can't remember the name of it, so I probably shouldn't speak to it, but I think that they, you know, like, it even got a couple sequels. But yeah, firefighting video game, genre that never quite took off, but I do think maybe there could be some juice there.
There's one, I think I know there's a couple. Human Entertainment N64, F1 pole position 64. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a few fighter rating games out there, but I don't know how many. And also, like, you know, it's something I feel like, oh yeah, they made the Fireman and then the Fireman 2. But I also feel like fighting fire specifically feels like the easiest thing you can do, because it's like shooting. And like other forms of like rescue could be like, they'd be like more complicated mechanically, but it'd be more versatile as well. Mm-hmm. I think Sega made like a light gun game that's like a firefighting game.
The problem with the modern gamers, we're all too focused on shooting and slashing rather than rescuing. Yeah,
it's like, you know, Kojima voice, we're all about the stick and not the rope.
They should make a game where you have to rescue a cat in the Alps.
Yeah, and you're like a cozy witch.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like Disco Elysium.
Yeah, do not look at what we're inspired by on our Kickstarter.
Yeah. And I think if you want to be really inspired, you have to have a moral quandary when saving the cat, because that cat, it needs to give birth by exploding, and only in cities. And it's his favorite thing to do.
Oh, man, it couldn't, like, explode somewhere else?
Yeah, and like there's a spirit ghost girl who was, like, scolding you, is like, how dare you not be how dare you try and stop this cat from exploding in the middle of the city.
David Cage would love this, actually.
God. Well, do we want to talk about Ultraman?
Yeah. I'm good. Burning Range is kind of neat.
So, we have got 3 episodes of Ultraman Leo to talk about today. I have got some summaries here.
These episodes I didn't take notes on.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm happy even though these episodes are good, I'm happy to maybe have a bit of a shorter length of actually talking about them this week on account of the fact that we have been going for a long time.
We did the movie.
I have assignments.
We did the movie and we talked about it for nearly 2 hours. So,
somehow.
Episode 13, Explosion. 2 Desperate Aliens, featuring Alien Vibe, the Invisible Alien.
This title could be half of all Ultraman episode names.
Yes. It's always 2 Desperate Aliens. Gen has been framed with an M by the alien Vibe. Vibe turned invisible and threw Gen's knife at a police officer, and now he's been arrested for homicide. Dan manages to arrange his release, but his commander in the Space Patrol makes it clear that Dan must take responsibility for this, and his position as captain is under question. In private, Gen denies the allegations, and Dan says, well, yeah, I know, I'm not stupid. But he admonishes Gen for being careless enough to let this happen. He points out both their positions at Mac are under threat, and it's essential that they, the defenders of Earth, are Mac officers. Gen is suspended for a week, and Dan says if it comes down to it, he will be able to handle the alien Vibe himself. Gen is so pissed off while fishing with his homies that he stands up and just yells about alien Vibe for a sec. At this very moment, as though it heard Gen talking shit, alien Vibe appears and menaces Momoko and the kids. Mac arrive and drive off Vibe, and Gen pursues despite his suspension. A construction worker gets killed, this time by a pipe that looks like it was thrown by Gen, and Mac sees the whole thing. Dan catches Gen as he pursues Vibe and is like, alright Gen, come on. It happened twice now. I specifically told you to drop it. But Gen is determined to prove his own innocence. He says he's resigning from Mac to stop causing trouble for Dan and the crew, and he walks away, not even stopping when Dan hits him with the crutch. Back at base, Dan has to justify himself again, insisting he believes in Gen and that he'll prove Gen's innocence and defeat the alien himself. Gen sets about intense karate training as he realizes Dan is willing to die to settle this. Dan has a revelation when he hurls a ruler so hard it sticks in a dartboard and does that thing. It's vibrations. It's vibrating to turn invisible. In the next attack, Dan records the invisible space where Vibe should be and manages to shoot Vibe's hand just as it grabs Aoshima's knife. Vife. At base, they watch the recording and see Vibe in slow motion and see Vibe take the knife. This proves Gen's innocence, they say. I don't know about proves, but yes, it demonstrates it's possible that he didn't do it. The crew calls him to get him to come back. Gen rejects their kindness and hits upon the whole vibration thing himself at the same time, and he starts training to see the vibrations. Vibe attacks again, but this time it's big. It turns invisible during the Mac assault, and Dan crashes his Mackie into the alien, hoping to sacrifice himself to take out the enemy. There's a big explosion, and Leo appears and catches Dan as he falls from the Mackie. Leo doesn't even have to fight. Vibe was killed in the explosion. Later, Gen apologizes to Dan, and Dan declines the apology, saying he should thank Gen instead. He doesn't know how Gen could see how to catch him, though. And Gen's like, oh yeah, I learned all about the vibrations with the pine cone. And Dan's like, pine cone? The end.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
This was a good one.
I like the flips.
This was a great one.
I really like both of them kind of reaching the same answer, but like through different ways.
Yeah, independently. Like it wasn't
independently,
Dan.
Yeah.
It wasn't Dan explaining to him. He just again also came up with it. And I like the restraint for once in this entire franchise to have like Ultraman has to show up, but they have Mac and like Dan kill the kaiju, and all Leo does is just save Dan.
Yeah, he's on that saving Amagi shit. It's good.
It's real good.
It's
Dan, like this is a lot like when I rescued my friend Amagi from a jar.
Yeah. He was in a jar, sir. We don't talk about it.
They blew up Paris that day, you know.
Yeah. Wait, they blew up Paris? Yeah, Moscow too. And New York, I think. But those cities are standing today, sir.
It's still the most disastrous 10 seconds of any Ultra show we've ever watched.
Yeah.
It's so wild. So yeah, this episode I appreciated for, one of the things with this show is that I have referred to the characterization of Dan as walking a tightrope. And I think this one walks the tightrope very well. I think the balance of Dan's he's torn between his duty and his appreciation of Gen as like his fellow alien, but also his sense of responsibility and like his like you are getting people killed. I can't just let you do that. Just because you're Ultraman. I think that's good. I think that's the kind of spice that I need from this relationship.
Yeah.
Leo's back on top for me.
Yeah. I like this alien looks like a clown.
Yeah.
There's like a gesture thing going on. It's really sick.
It's a good look. The bright purple and blue is very fun. Oh no, if you Google alien vibe, you get a lot of NFTs.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say something else.
Oh no.
These are like, oh god, remember when NFTs were a thing?
All my apes gone.
All my apes gone.
They went to that one fucking Toku about the ape war or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm so mad that got machine translated.
Someone's translating apparently.
Good. I would like to watch that one day.
Yeah.
Nice. The training this week where it's just again just watching a plank vibrate back and forth and then eventually a pine cone hits it and he catches it is like so stupid.
Yes.
I think it's like
it feels like
I'm a big fan.
The ending feels like they kind of are like, all right, this one is a little silly. You know what I mean? Like they're even acknowledging.
Dan throws a ruler and scares the other Gerbers in there.
Yeah, you, Dan, you're scaring the hose. She's just like fucking throwing a ruler so hard it like quivers in a dartboard is like, you gotta calm down. You're scaring people. Chill out, dude. I need to grab a clip of that scene where he just walks up to the dartboard and just twangs the ruler over and over again. And like looks at it fascinated. It's really funny.
Science rules.
Science rules. Gen's Dan this week is on his like is on his shit in terms of like him filming the alien and then like shooting its hand when it tries to pull the knife from Aoshima is like Dan's a cool guy. Yeah, he's cool. And then you've got his whole thing where he's like, well, I'm gonna kamikaze into this kaiju. And it's like, well, okay, Dan, you're a cool guy. Please, Dan.
Japan, stop doing this in the media.
Dan, Please relax. You got it's his sense of responsibility. It's his overdeveloped sense of duty.
True.
It's good. It's good. Who made this episode?
This episode was made by Isao Maeda, who I believe did 2 episodes of Taro, but I don't have him on hand, and then also written by Shigemitsu Taguchi.
Okay. Cool. Mel.
Systematic structure is Shohei Tojo, and Alien Vibe is designed by Tetsuo Osawa.
Nice. What is there to say about this episode? I'm kind of reaching for things. I'm not getting anything.
I think that something I appreciate about the show, that because there's definitely a formula here, but also I think they've done a really good job, at least so far, of knowing which elements to pull on and put the focus on and really what strings to tug on each time around to keep it different, and knowing when like certain elements can just kind of like, I don't want to say be half-assed in any given episode, but like
be on the wayside.
Doesn't need as much attention. Yeah. It keeps it feeling fresh, even though that ostensibly this is kind of the same setup and payoff each time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They know to prioritize different elements of the formula, which is good.
Yeah.
We like this episode. If we don't have like all that much to actually say about the episode, we can.
This was directed by the guy who did the fucking music kaiju and the volleyball episode.
Oh, nice.
That's so good. Man, what a pair of episodes.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I like the effects they do for Vibe and the acrobatics he has.
Yes, Vibes whole. You know the whole thing with like I like the framing of Gen. I think this is a good premise for the episode. I think the whole when he reached, because he like reaches for his knife to catch it as it gets pulled out of his holster and then like hits the police officer, and he's just stood there frozen looking like he's thrown a knife. And it's like okay. It's like, now I know what this looks like, officer.
I think it's funny the pipe hits the guy in the throat is goofy.
Yeah, the pipe's a little less convincing. Well, basically this is just a solid episode.
Yeah. Agreed.
There is maybe a little more meat in the next 2. Of which one of them, episode 14, is called, this might be my favorite episode this week.
It's pretty
Deadly
good.
Fists,
It's pretty good.
The Boy Who Calls Forth a Storm, featuring Antares, the scorpion kaiju. Leo gets owned by Antares, the scorpion kaiju. Dan has to eject and hurl launch an explosive crutch to save Leo from Antares' tail attack. It looks a little like it's Dan's fault Leo gets injured, but I assume that's not what they're going for. At the sports center, there has been a dojo challenge. A boy, the boy, the one who calls forth a storm from the title, he's beating everyone up. And then he hits someone with something that sure looks like a tail attack. Dan identifies this boy as Antares in human form and arranges for the MAC officers to train Gen to fend off that tail attack. The MAC officers think it's to help with the dojo challenge, but Dan and Gen know that Antares will be back here in human form, seeking out Gen to eliminate Ultraman Leo. They are preparing for that eventuality. When Antares attacks in kaiju form, Dan insists that Aoshima and another guy stay to help Gen train, and they resent this order. When the fight is over, Mac comes back and reports losses, and Dan is like, all right, well, back to work with the training. Aoshima demands an explanation, gets none. Gen seeks Dan out, and Dan tells him, if we let them know the boy is a kaiju, they will attack him. And they will lose. Them attacking him is of no use until you've learned how to defeat that tail attack. Gen returns, and the MAC officers refuse to do the training, despite Gen hitting the Dogizer.
They're like all your favoritism.
Yeah, he bemoans Gen's special treatment, and the crew leaves. Gen has Takashi. I know his name now, thanks to this episode. Gen has Takashi train with him instead, and despite Takashi's protests that this isn't training for a sport anymore, Gen like persists, makes him keep hitting him with a kendo bamboo sword. At some point, Toru is about to fall off a pipe, and Gen, whose hands are tied to a stick to simulate being grappled, has to catch the boy with his legs. That's it! My legs! Well done, Deku. At the dojo, Antares and Mac are waiting. Gen and Antares fight, and eventually Antares tries to pull off the tail attack, and Gen counters it. Everyone in Mac is like, wait, did he just do a tail attack? That's kaiju shit, right? And they start blasting. Everyone chases Antares outside, and he turns into a giant kaiju, and all, Aoshima's like, Gen, I'm really sorry. Gen transforms into Leo, out of sight, and pulls off the counter again, this time severing the barb at the end of the tail and using it to decapitate Antares. Antares, holding his head, takes more than a few steps forward, and then collapses and explodes. At the dojo, Aoshima spars with Toru, and Toru's like, all right, I'm done. When Aoshima asks why, Toru says, a man doesn't explain himself. And Karu's like, he forgot to do yesterday's homework, so he has to catch up. Aoshima ruffles Toru's hair, and Toru punches him. Everyone has a good laugh. The end.
Hell yeah.
The martial arts this one are so fucking good.
The martial arts shit in this episode is fucking sick. First of all, the big fight with this boy beating up all these people in the dojo is so cool.
Yeah.
This is that we're on that Mirror Man one guy versus everyone shit.
Yeah. I guess they got guys over who worked on Mirror Man at this point, so.
Presumably. The other half of this is the fucking the training. To me, this is one of the this is some good training in terms of like the plan is solid, right? It's like, okay, you got to learn to deal with this. We know this alien's coming back here, and we're gonna get him when he's in like kid form. And the explanation that Dan has for why he can't tell the rest of the crew, I think is a good explanation. I think this like makes sense.
And the drama comes from the fact the crew can't be told, and so they just think Gen is just a nepo baby, basically.
Yeah, Gen begging them for help and them just being like, "What the fuck is wrong with this guy?" and walking out.
Even though disobeying orders.
Yeah, disobeying orders. This is insubordination, but I don't. I think Dan understands.
Yeah.
This is this stuff bangs. This is great.
Yeah, I do think it's fun that like we just have like a scorpion kaiju, and it's like, why is he a person? Just cause.
He's why is Leo a person?
Yeah. It's just cool. He's just like, yeah, he specifically wants to fight with martial arts.
Something that's interesting to me is that at the start of this episode, I was like, I almost wish this antagonist was in person form more of a guy. But then I almost feel like I rolled back around on it the other way, where I'm like, the fact that he is just here to say nothing and fight, I actually think adds a lot of character.
It's
ominous.
It's imposing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan.
Yeah, it's really... When Gen returns from his training, and we just get the shot of the boy at the other end of the dojo, and then Gen like starts stepping into frame, and then we get like all the Mac officers step in from over on the right to be like, that's the guy. It's like they've just been hanging out here as well. Man, this was fun. I just had a great time with this one as well. I think the kaiju stuff is good. I love the kaiju being decapitated, holding its head, and just like
yeah,
Leo backing up, nervous. That shit's good.
He's planning something. He's like, no, he's just dead.
Nah, he's done. He's done.
Yeah.
Extended silence. Who made this episode?
This episode was, I believe, once again, yes, the director is the same as Sao Maeda, and then written by Bunpei Ai.
Nice. Well done to both of those people.
Yeah. Sometimes a weird guy.
This was a great one.
Sometimes a weird guy with a tail shows up, and that's all the plot you need.
Yeah, I like it's just like a draw. They're doing a lot more in this show, and maybe this is part of like the oil crisis shit, which is I feel like in this show they're doing a lot more of drawing effects on, like in terms of like instead of like firing fireworks, like sometimes they're drawing in beams a little more often, that kind of thing. And this is like another one where it's like they just draw the tail slipping out of his trouser leg and like going up and hitting the guy in the shoulder or something.
Yeah.
And they're doing a lot more with that. But which is, I kind of, I guess that becomes like a little more popular because like I kind of associate that with like maybe a bit of a later era of Toku, like maybe like from clips I've seen of like 80s and 90s stuff. Maybe, I don't know. It might just be a shift overall. I'm not sure. Anyway. Mel.
Yeah, so same as the last episode. Special Sisters Shohei Tojo and Antares designed by Tetsuo Osawa. Both guys who I'll note again worked on Mirror Man.
Nice. Sick.
Yeah, it's just cool having a Monster of the Week be cool rival guy like this.
Yeah. They're really incorporating the sports center. They like their dedication to this is I'm a fan of. There's like Dan rocks up at the beginning, is like a dojo challenge. Omura isn't here. You can't accept a dojo challenge.
I like the idea that eventually Omura is like really good if he just locks in.
Yeah, Omura as like the alternative teacher figure in this show is an interesting one for me. Yeah. He hasn't shown up in a few episodes, but like whenever he's like he's such a kinder authority figure than
a little bumbling,
Dan.
but
yeah, bumbling, but like it's not like his lessons are less effective because like Dan does a lot of his ridiculous training, but like it's things like Omura trying to cheer up Toru, Omura teaching Gen about like, oh yeah, in Kendo you can do a sword catch.
Yeah, it's funny that he could have just learned the sword catch from Omura instead of the ridiculous machine that
yes. You did not need the machine. It was not necessary.
What do you think they did with the machine after they were done with it? I mean,
Dan put it in a memory box in like a very big a warehouse for memories. A warehouse for nostalgia.
He took it to Pawn Stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can give you like a 500.
Then the old man would be like, back in my day, this is how we trained to fight the knights.
Yeah.
The knights?
Yeah, the knights.
Into dreams?
That's true.
Do we have anything more to say about this episode?
Yeah, I feel weird like we don't have much to say, but I guess these episodes are speaking for themselves, even if it's like complimentary.
They feel like, I do genuinely think that because they're leaning in on the martial arts stuff, these episodes do feel like weirdly simple, but also like good. And the characterization, I think importantly, is also as strong as it needs to be to make me really like Gen, be semi-afraid of, but also still enjoy Dan. And like, yeah, we're getting just enough Sports Center stuff that I'm all here for it.
I enjoy
Gen. Oh, go for it.
I was say I enjoy Gen consistently being a whimpering puppy.
Yes. His cry face is so fucking good.
They have truly nailed, in terms of Mac, they have nailed the idea that there is always one guy who's more significant than the rest of them.
Oh, 100%.
Because they've just gone, we do not give a fuck about anyone except Aoshima. He's the only other guy. And to be honest, tertiary, but he's still the only one we're going to remember the name of. Just getting their priorities straight when making the show. I'm coming to like Takashi. I like Takashi.
Yeah.
I think he's good. I think his whole deal of like the training stressing him out. He's like, this isn't sport anymore. This is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this with you. I think it's good.
And just like Dan's absurd training regime, like spilling out onto other people, because Gen has to impose it on other people.
Yeah, and like Gen, because like Takeshi takes hits in these trainings, and it's like, you didn't sign up for this shit, man.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
Aoshima being like, hey guys, we talk about the Sports Center. Can you say the Sports Center and also Aoshima, please and thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you want to, we can move on. I said that like, well, if you want to. We can move on to episode 15.
Yeah.
Which is
Number
called
15.
Number 15.
True.
Blind Attack: The Blow with Fighting Spirit. Featuring the duplication alien, Flip Alien. This is the alien Flip. So, at night, Flip, the fake Bolton, shows off its duplication technique and then vanishes into the night. The next day, Gen finds Momoko washing black gi, and he's like, "Oh, you didn't have to do that. I can wash my own gi." And Momoko's a little confused. She's like, I could wash yours too if you like. And Gen sort of gets a look on his face like he's been shot.
From this moment, bro is not normal the rest of this episode.
This is the moment this happens. I was like, yes, Gen Cuck. Gen is absolutely miserable at the idea that this is someone, because he was like coming like so generous, like, oh, Momoko, you don't have to. I can do that. I'm like an independent guy, right? I don't need you to wash my clothes for me. And she's like, this isn't your clothes. And he's like, what the fuck do you mean? Huh?
I'm the protagonist.
I'm the protagonist. Incredible. Gen takes the kids to eat ice cream and makes, on reflection, really amusingly prolonged eye contact with a guy at another table.
I didn't realize. Oh my god, that's what they're doing. I didn't even realize. Oh, that's so good. This show is so fucking good.
Interrupted only when the guy catches the waitress and her tray when she slips. Momoko arrives, and she's here to see this guy. His name is Sumiya. Later, Gen, now thoroughly cucked, gets the call that an alien has appeared really close by. Gen heads out and finds Momoko and Sumiya getting menaced by Flip. Gen intervenes like, I'll save you, and Sumiya says, lol, no you won't.
That's right.
Gen, immediately proven right. Gen gets knocked out and Sumiya is left to handle the duplicating alien. Flip eventually flees, and it turns out Dan saw the whole thing. Later, he tells Gen that Mac must fight the aliens. They can't leave it to civilians. Gen, you must go train with Sumiya. Find out the secret to fighting Flip. On his way, however, Gen sees Momoko also going to visit Sumiya, and he decides, fuck that. I'm training alone instead. I'm not going up there. The call comes through. The alien has appeared. Gen heads to the scene and Mac gets owned by Flip, including one guy who gets hurled against a tree and dies. Dan chases off Flip with the machine gun in his crotch. Hell yeah. Afterwards, Dan scolds Gen for not visiting Tsumiya, letting his pride get in the way of his duty. Is it not more shameful to let someone die because of your selfishness? Dan tells Gen, Momoko and the kids of the sports center believe you're not that kind of coward. Gen summons all his courage and visits Tsumiya. There, Tsumiya reveals an unexplained resentment of Mac, and that he only agreed to help Gen because Momoko asked. Gen wants to know the trick to fighting the duplicated aliens, and Tsumiya's like, okay, I think I see the problem. He has Gen hurl balls at him, and Tsumiya dodges or catches everyone with his eyes closed, and Gen realizes, he's blind. And Tsumiya, in the epitome of, if you're blind, you develop super senses, Tsumiya says, I pity those with sight. And this gives Gen his revelation. There is truly only one alien, yeah?
I was going to say, I just watched an episode of Saint Seiya does this.
Yeah. Of course. There is only one alien. It's not duplicating. It's an illusion. Gen enlists Takashi to throw balls at him until Gen can dodge or catch them with his eyes closed. Gen catches a ball, throws it back, hits Takashi, which is a little fucked up, and then catches a crutch out of nowhere. Dan congratulates Gen on his successful training. The alien appears and Mac moves out. Gen turns into Leo and fights Flip until it duplicates. At this point, Dan attacks Leo and coats his face with white goo to blind him. He has to do this because Leo doesn't have eyelids, I guess. Leo uses his newly honed senses to identify the real alien Flip and defeats it, exploding it with a laser disc attack or something. Later, Gen's eyes seem injured from getting glazed by Dan, but he recovers quickly under Momoko's care. Tsumiya arrives and explains his backstory. He's a survivor of Kuroshio Island, which is where Momoko is from. That's how they know each other. Tsumiya has long resented Mac for the island's devastation at the hands of a kaiju, but now he knows Mac has brave men like Gen. He apologizes for his lack of faith. Gen's like, nah, that's okay. The captain, where is the captain? Dan is not in the room. Dan quietly left. He has gone to leave flowers at the tree where that Mac officer died. Gen joins him and they consider the hardships of their duty while they watch the sunset together. The end.
Hell yeah.
That's a fucking episode of Ultraman.
Yeah,
yeah?
This one made me realize I need this show to make Gen actually wrong more. Because a lot of the time...
yeah.
a lot of times, it's just like, man, fucking I would have done that. Stop beating up on Gen. This one, he's actually being a little bit of a shit. And it's like, okay, yeah, you being in your feelings about this and not asking this guy for help because you're afraid that you're going to lose your love interest to him is ridiculous.
I appreciate fiction where you establish some characters and their character traits are not they're right or they're wrong. Their character traits are their character traits, and whether they're right or wrong sort of depends on the situation you put them in.
Yeah. You mean people?
And people in real life.
Not me though. I'm always right. Though.
That's yeah, of course, naturally. So having that thing with this, this sort of back and forth between Dan and Gen, where it's these two guys are often right about how the other is fucking up. And in this case in particular, we get it more the other way than we usually do, where it's Gen, a guy died because you were jealous about a woman that you have expressed no feelings towards, really. Are you okay?
Nope. You see, she's the female lead and he's the male lead, which means obviously they're automatically.
Yeah, automatically. It was the incredible gi washing bit at the beginning of this episode. I was elated when he was full of good feeling and good humor and just oh, you don't have to do that for me. come on, I'm Gen. I'm all right on my. You don't have to wash my clothes for me. And then she's like, I'm not washing your clothes. And he's like, oh, hang on.
It's really strong.
I suddenly have really strong feelings about the fact you should be washing my clothes. Electric. I'm so glad because I didn't. It was only when I wrote the summary that I realized what was happening. The extended eye contact bit.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I did not realize till just now either. It's so good.
I think it was one of those things where I was like, yeah, I watched the episode and go, oh damn, the eye contact, and then I realized only at the end of the episode, like, wait, he's blind. What happened earlier on?
he's just sitting there.
Yeah,
he's just chilling. He's just chilling, and Gen is inventing a rivalry.
Yeah,
he's like, that guy is fucking looking at me.
To the show's credit, they absolutely want you to think, oh, maybe this guy's an alien at the start, and then it's like, no, he's just a dude. He's just a normal guy.
So this episode is indulging in a very popular idea, which is the blind guy who has developed like superhuman senses to surpass his blindness.
Yeah.
As a martial artist, this is like this is that Daredevil shit. This is an idea going back so far. People are so into this.
Think about the Kill Kill guy who like sews his eyes shut. And then at the end of the show, he's like, actually, my eyes are back. I'm even better now. And I'm like, that's not how it works.
I distinctly remember a teacher, like, telling the class when we were younger, like, oh, yeah, when you lose one of your senses, all of your other senses, like, get more powerful to, like, overcompensate. Like, this is just real.
Listener, first of all, that's not real. That's not a real thing that happens.
This is China science that people actually believe.
That's not how it works. Being blind fucking sucks. It's not. You don't develop a superpower. You've just kind of you
can't see.
You can't see. And let me tell you, the world ain't built for you. The world is not convenient. The world is bad about supporting people who have a disability. Once more, Ultraman engaging in classic disability stuff. However, in the context of that is happening, this is a fucking sick version of it.
Yeah.
Where you've got Gen going up to he's like, I don't understand why he's being deceived by his sight, because like he's seeing the duplication, and the blind man Tsumiya is like, well, I don't see any of these illusions you're talking about. There's one alien.
This is the like being not normal about disability the other direction from what Ultraman normally is like about it, where it's just way too positive.
You know what? For that extra Ultraman spice, Ultraman should have fixed his blindness at the end of the episode. Just for that classic Return of Ultraman vibe. Once he defeated his resentment of Mac, his eyesight magically restored.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
Dan should have given him like a fake Ultra Eye, and is like, whenever you put these on, you will be able to see again.
Yeah. I obviously I'm as has been made clear, I was all in on like the personal drama with Gen this episode. When the dressing down that Dan gives him, I think, is one of the best we've had so far.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree with that. He does just get a guy killed. Like that is on him.
Yes. It's like honestly, he's done that multiple episodes this week.
Yeah.
The construct when Dan is like, you got a construction guy killed because you disobeyed my orders to stop chasing after this kaiju. But yeah, this episode, the fucking the ending of the episode being going to visit where that guy died and leave flowers and offer like a prayer. I think that's, we're on that Dan, the burden of leadership shit again.
Yeah, he remembered his name even though we don't even know it.
Yeah, he will remember all of those Mac officers' names that I dismiss immediately because I don't need to think about them at all ever.
Start rambling them off like trays.
Yeah, he's doing that fucking... Because when I was a teenager, I liked Battlestar Galactica a lot. My version of that is when Starbuck does it in that one episode.
There's a motherfucker named Starbuck?
Are you not? Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know shit about Battlestar Galactica.
So the Battlestar Galactica, the original Battlestar Galactica, was old. It was like 80s or something.
Yes, I do know of it because I know that there was a constituent of like. There were sci-fi writers at the time that hated that show because it was so low budget and cheap looking. People are like, this gives the genre a bad name.
70s, sorry, 78, 79. And then the reboot, Starbuck, was no, you know, they obviously they had a bunch of the characters from the original show, but you know, because it's not like a sequel show, it's a reboot or whatever. Starbuck's a woman now, and it's like, and people are like, oh no, the original actor for Starbuck, who is like the face in the A-Team, is like, they're trying to bury masculinity.
Oh my fucking god.
Well, loser.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Ridiculous.
Anyway.
Well, I'm sure happy things like that never happen now on today's modern internet.
No. Never.
Oh no,
I'm sure happy there aren't like 500 fucking YouTube channels that make a living off of being that guy. What a terrible future.
I only just learned today that there was a 70s Battlestar Galactica, but I am finding out in the wiki that the original writer was also a Mormon and infused it in the work.
That sounds so true. That sounds true beyond belief. You have no idea how true that is. That is just makes everything about Battlestar Galactica makes perfect sense.
I know very little about that show other than it was, you know, people writing sci-fi at the time didn't care for it. But one weird factoid I do know is that really old people from that generation sometimes call that show Battlestar Ponderosa.
What? I don't know anything about this.
Because Ponderosa is, I believe it's something to do with like the show Bonanza, and like is just like, oh, it's reusing like cheap set shit from like the old Western stuff at the time. I believe is the.
I see.
The first episode of the TV series, The Long Pilot Movie, was broadcast on September 17th, 1978. About 30 minutes before the scheduled end, that broadcast was interrupted by the signing of the Egyptian-Israeli Camp David Accords. After the interruption, which was nearly an hour in length, the episode picked up where it left off.
I hate how I looked up Battlestar Ponderosa, and the first thing I get is a blog by George R.R. Martin.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Anyway. Battlestar Galactica aside. Again, Dan trying to make Gen see sense by like invoking like this is like so much more cowardly, like just like refusing to like put up with training from a guy you don't like for like reasons that he hasn't done anything to you. I thought it was really good. And them at the end of the episode watching the sun go down and being like, it's gonna be hard to do this without anyone dying. I don't think that's gonna happen. But we have to do our best. I think it's good. I like the guys.
All three bangers this week.
Yeah, we got some good rivals.
Absolutely.
And lots of versatility of Dan's cane.
Yes,
his cane is getting so much use this week.
He learned the last one from Soga.
Soga, yeah. The mandolin machine gun. Yeah. I watched that episode a few weeks of like a couple of months ago or something. So I was just like I want to put on an episode of Ultra 7, and I put on the rally episode.
It's a good one.
I don't know if I'll ever. I have not been in a mood where I'm like I want to rewatch any of this really.
Yeah.
But like I know years from now I'm gonna have like a random like spat of just being like, oh, I want to revisit all my favorite Ultra Q and 7 and Return episodes or something. I bet I'm gonna have a great time.
Yeah. If I was to rewatch one right now, the one I'd rewatch is 7. It just wouldn't be some time.
I do think maybe I have revisited some of Q. Not like enough that really stuck with me. I think I maybe, if there's one though, it would have been like random Q episodes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm. Who made this episode?
Just as I put the book down. Curses.
Pick that shit up.
I did. I opened it. Toru Toyama, who... Oh, is this a new guy who I just forgot to do shit for? No, he also did episodes 7 and 8. And then also written by Shigemitsu Taguchi.
Nice. This box director is Junoki, and Flip is designed by Tetsuo Ozawa.
Nice. All right. Do we have anything more to say about this episode? We might not, which is okay.
Nah.
Yeah. We're at the same runtime as the Arc episode right now.
We're at the same runtime. I'm quite happy with that. That means we've run for over 3 hours.
The Arc movie was in its way also 3 episodes.
Yeah, true. Very true. And you know what? Those weren't as good.
No.
Oh man. So yeah, it's either an episode on Ultraman Arc has, I'm just saying this now because it's relevant, and then I'll skip it for when we're doing our outro. An episode of Skipping Q for the Arc movie has either come out already this week or will come out later this week, one or the other, depending on how busy I am. Spoilers.
That's alright.
Yeah.
They can always do better.
Alright. Do we have color timers?
We do. Speaking of mixed success rates, episode 13, 55 seconds. Episode 14, 3 minutes and 3 seconds, and then 2 minutes and 1 second.
Oof.
And then episode 15, 3 minutes and 54 seconds.
It's, mixed success.
Yeah. He can only do 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
He can only.
They did cut it down by 20 seconds.
Cut it down by 20. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now they've got more time for the drama.
Yeah.
True.
Do we have any emails this week?
Yeah, we got one from Subject Sir.
I got one. Yes, we do got one. I remember now. Yes. Shoot.
Subject line is a period.
Okay.
Wow, that second opening sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
No, I will not be providing it to you guys. I think we'd all prefer the podcast open with like an actually good song.
Way ahead of you, man. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. True.
There's something in this next paragraph which feels like it's news to me. So maybe I should wait. You want to wait for this for next week?
Should we leave it?
Yeah.
We can leave that.
Yeah.
We can call that email for now and maybe come back to it.
It's like one paragraph anyway, and he says he's gonna send it a longer one next week, so I can just like tack this on to the front of it.
Okay, yeah.
Just because I feel like the thing he's saying here is anticipating for later. So.
I see.
Oh, they'll say.
Okay.
They will say Antares is pretty cool.
Antares is pretty cool. All right.
I'm ordering ice cream because of this episode.
Nice.
Or the last one.
Are you gonna make eye contact with your romantic rival?
Yeah.
Who doesn't even know you're making eye contact with him?
Yeah, because he can't see.
It's
he can't
like one half of.
Like he just coincidentally looked over. He's like, "Oh, those kids."
Well, because I feel bad. I'm forgetting her name. The little girl,
Momoko.
Kaoru.
No, Kaoru. Yeah. She's like, that guy's been staring at you.
Yeah. Well, that might be it from the podcast this week.
Yeah.
We have got 3 more episodes of Ultraman Leo next week. We got no other features next week, just those 3 episodes.
Yeah, expect a gamer episode in probably the coming days after you hear this pod.
Okay.
Just because that way I get the actual originally planned March episode out in March.
Oh, I see. Yeah, nice.
And then we'll be back on track for my original plan.
Yeah, cool, nice. Well, if you want to follow us online, you can do so at ultra_QUEUE on Twitter. Alternatively, at ultraQUEUE on Blue Sky. No underscores on Blue Sky. I'm also on Blue Sky. I'm at Red November. Mel, your place.
Hi, you can follow me at Dear Crowns on Twitter and or Blue Sky. You can follow the pod. You can email the pod at ultraqpod@gmail.com. We also have a coffee ultraq fund that's presumably supposed to go towards subtitling stuff, which independently of the funding may actually be having some things happening in the background. We'll see pieces on the movie on the board. What can it be? Who will say? Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere at Be Invoked. That's B_invoked on the Twitter I don't use, and Be Invoked all in word on Blue Sky. Still not too much happening on YouTube right now, but
it's about to become a Formula 1 channel.
Yeah, I'm about to become an F1 guy. Also, you can.
What are there in the way of F1 video games?
Okay. I actually looked this up.
Virtual racing.
EA has 2. There's F1 Manager, which actually seems to be more popular. Where you do all the management side of it, as the name suggests, and then there's an actual F1 racing game, which seems to be kind of whatever. But
this is kind of the sign that because it's the fact that the manager game is popular is this is the kind of sickos the F1 people are.
It's funny because literally last night I was looking at them and my friend was like, "Are you gonna buy them?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna wait for the 2025 ones to drop," which I guess they usually do around summer. So
I see.
But I do want to give them a try.
Yeah. Well, that is it for the podcast. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Later.